Hey, it's Zane here and welcome back. Hope you're having a great day wherever you may be. Now, in today's video, I want to talk about retirement and self-sovereignty and how Bitcoin can help you on this journey. And actually tonight I'm running a live Zoom event for a small group. It's called Retirement Plan B, how to retire early and to become self-sovereign with Bitcoin. And I've been doing a number of Bitcoin related Zoom events over the past 4 months and getting fantastic feedback. People are booking in for one-on-one coaching sessions with me, and I'm helping them to get started on their own Bitcoin journey. And so I'm going to keep that going. But if by chance you're able to join me tonight and you'd like to do that, it is at 6 p.m. Sydney time. So Wednesday night, 6 p.m. Sydney time. Just let me know in the comments below, and I will drop you a link to attend that Zoom event if you can make it. But let's talk about retirement, and let's talk about self-sovereignty and how Bitcoin can play a fundamental role in this. When I really condense Bitcoin down into what it represents and how to, I guess, explain in simple terms to people how it can improve their life, I really believe that it distills down to two main benefits. Number one, wealth acceleration, and number two, wealth protection. Wealth acceleration and wealth protection. And what I've discovered over the years is people who have come into Bitcoin, I've met a lot of people who haven't been in Bitcoin long enough and who haven't done enough study and learning in Bitcoin to benefit from these two fundamental features that Bitcoin offers: wealth acceleration and wealth protection. And so I'm going to be focused quite a bit on these two aspects in tonight's presentation. And really, when I think about wealth acceleration, most people I talk to, they're in their sort of late 40s and beyond. They have somewhere between 10 and up to 20 years until retirement. In this country, retirement age is considered the age of 65, but we know that most people are not in a financial position to put their feet up at that stage, and most people will be actually working until the day they die because they simply don't have enough in their retirement accounts. And what we're seeing at the moment is that a lot of people are becoming more aware of their superannuation, their 401ks. They're starting to pay attention to how much is actually there and how much they're going to need to actually live comfortably in retirement. And I guess for many years, most people kind of considered their retirement account as something that they'd sort of look at as they got into their 50s, sort of nearing retirement. But I believe that that's a big mistake. I believe that superannuation, retirement accounts are under threat. We've seen just in the past week here in Australia, there's been a number of industry superannuation funds have been the subject of a cyber attack. We've seen that the government is now threatening to impose extra taxation in the form of unrealised capital gains tax on superannuation funds over a certain level from July 1 this year. And these are very concerning times because, when you've worked your whole life to set up a nest egg, a retirement fund that you're going to need to sustain you for the next 25, 30 plus years, I'm sure you'll agree that, it's not right that retirement fund should be under threat. We should be able to put our head on our pillow at night knowing that all this time and energy that we've put into being productive in the world and exchanging our intellectual knowledge and know-how and running a business, building a career, whatever it might be that you've done, you want to know that when you get to that stage where you want to retire, that you've got enough to get you through for the rest of your life. But the reality is that superannuation funds, retirement accounts, they're under threat. We know that governments around the world are broke. They can't raise enough in taxes to facilitate and fund all of their spending programs. And so what they're doing now is they're creating inflation instead. And inflation is a is taxation by stealth. It is taxation that we don't notice. It is taxation without legislation, as the famous economist Milton Friedman stated back in the 70s. Taxation without legislation. They can't increase the taxes on the people by another 20-30% to fund everything, and so what they do instead is they create inflation through currency debasement, through money printing. And so we've seen over just since the health crisis era, since 2020, we've seen the money supply around the world increase by at least 50%. Some say it's up to 100%. And so this is why asset prices have become so inflated, because when you have relatively scarce assets and then you increase the money supply, of course what you find is that those relatively scarce assets absorb all of that economic value, that infinite economic energy into their pricing. And so the pricing of assets that we're seeing now is not a reflection of their true inherent value. It's simply a reflection of how much inflation is in the system. And so, this is the real point that most people don't realize, that because they don't notice it, it's not sort of hitting them in the face on a day-to-day basis. Yes, they notice the price of bread and milk and eggs and petrol and school fees and insurance and rents. They do notice those things going up, but they can't quite put their finger on what is causing all of this. And so this has big implications for your retirement, because if inflation is running at more like 12 to 15% rather than 3% that they tell us that it's running at, because they're only telling us about consumer price index inflation, CPI inflation, through the price of those basic staples that we rely on. But you've got to add to that the rate of currency debasement that we know is running at around about 10% on top of the CPI inflation. And so unless your superannuation account is generating at least 15%, the reality is that you're not getting ahead. And we've been sold this illusion for decades now that if you've got an investment fund that's generating anywhere from 5, 6, 7 up to 10%, then that's considered a high performing return on investment. And we know that the Australian superannuation industry puts out figures, and their latest figures suggest that the rate of return for the average superannuation fund over the past 10 years in this country has been just 6%. And we know that 5 of the last 10 years has been an extremely inflationary environment. So essentially it means that if you're in a fund that is generating only 6% and you're going to work and you're contributing to this retirement fund, and that fund is only generating 6%, then you really are all out at sea in terms of your financial future. You have you're sitting out on a dinghy with a gaping hole in it, and your financial future is slowly sinking to the bottom because you are not even half keeping up with the rate of true inflation. And so we need an asset that is going to beat true inflation. We need an asset that is not just going to beat CPI, Consumer Price Index. We need an asset that is going to beat the rate of currency debasement. And Bitcoin was designed for this. And we know that over the past 7 years, Bitcoin's annual compound growth rate has been running at 59%. And it's been sitting at around 55% when you take it out over 10 years. And so 6% for a superannuation fund being the average rate of return, as opposed to 55% over the past 10 years for Bitcoin. And so when you start plugging your retirement fund and these long-term savings numbers into a compound annual growth rate calculator, you begin to realize that putting your money into a hopeless performing super fund that is generating just 6%, you're really selling yourself short to the tune of millions of dollars, particularly when you have an option, right, to set yourself up with a self-managed super fund and to get an expert to actually do this for you, who is able to create a statement of advice and a strategy document for you, set up a trust, open your bank account so that you can buy Bitcoin. And so more and more people are now realizing that this is the way forward, to at least park a portion of their superannuation, if they can, into Bitcoin. And typically the only way to do that is through a self-managed super fund here in Australia at this time. And so that's a really important thing to consider. Have you got enough for retirement? How much time do you have? And is your retirement fund performing enough? Are you generating enough return that is going to get you to your retirement age, let's say 65 years of age, with enough? Now, the average superannuation fund balance in this country for people aged 60 to 64, so in other words, they're on the cusp of retirement. For men, it's about 400,000, and for women, it's about 100,000 less, 300,000 for women. So 400,000 for men, 300,000 for women. For people aged between 60 and 64 are the latest figures in this country for people in terms of their superannuation balance. Now, I'm not sure how much it costs you to live per year. Obviously, if you don't have a mortgage, which is only a very small fraction of society, if you don't have a mortgage, the question then becomes, how long will it take you to burn through $300,000 or $400,000 if you're in the average group when it comes to superannuation? And so these are all questions that you need to ponder and start thinking about, because if just a small allocation to Bitcoin at a 55% CAGR, compound annual growth rate, even if it does 5% less than that, 10%, even down to 25% less than that, you're still going to be miles in front when it comes to allocating to your retirement by putting a portion of your retirement savings into Bitcoin. And so I'm going to demonstrate a few little models tonight that are going to kind of paint a picture as to what this could mean for people who start allocating to Bitcoin now and they have 15 years to retirement. And the numbers are quite mind-blowing actually when you look at the historical growth rates of a super fund versus Bitcoin and what this could mean for you. But the other aspect to it, of course, is financial protection and financial sovereignty. And I'm of the firm belief that the system is broke. The system is based on debt. It's a house of cards that could collapse at any time. There is so much uncertainty in the world right now, so much economic instability, geopolitical unrest. I believe that we're in the age of economic chaos. We've seen banks fail in the last 15 years. We've seen the Cypriot banking crisis in 2013. We saw the Lebanese banking crisis in 2019. People lost their life savings, committed suicide in the streets because they couldn't access their money. We saw a number of banks in Silicon Valley just in 2023 fail. People were going to the bank to try and withdraw their funds. Everything was shut down. And so we have to understand that things aren't stable. Things are very, very uncertain when it comes to the financial system. And so we need to be decentralizing ourselves from it in the best way that we possibly can. And I truly believe that when it comes to our retirement accounts, this is something we don't want to mess with. This is something we need to be paying attention to. I believe that there's going to be some upheaval when it comes to superannuation that we haven't yet seen, but there's enough writing on the wall to suggest that those accounts are at risk. And so we need to be using these as signs to really take stock of where we are in terms of our retirement. Bitcoin enables you to take self-custody of your wealth. Yes, you're still subject to the taxation laws and everything, provided that you're within that system. So if you set up a self-managed super fund, you will be subjected to the capital gains laws if they come through, and all of those things, but you're still able to actually take personal self-custody of your Bitcoin. And for me, this presents a really important feature because it enables us to be the custodian of our own wealth. We are not entrusting a third party, a counterparty, to actually do that for us. And so if there is to be any kind of horrendous banking crisis or a financial crisis, at the very least we are the ones that are in control of our wealth. And I think that is a very, very powerful thing for everybody to consider if they're sort of heading towards retirement age and concerned about their retirement funding. And these are a lot of the conversations that I'm having with people right now on a one-on-one basis. And again, I'm going to be discussing this further in a 60-minute presentation on Zoom tonight. So I want to leave it there, but there's a lot happening in the world economically, financially. Bitcoin is a life raft, it's a solution, it's a way that you and I can decentralize a part of our financial life, and put our head on our pillow at night and sleep well, knowing that we are our own bank, we are in control, we are on the path to financial self-sovereignty, which is so important in these times. I'm going to leave it there today. Join me if you can. Put a comment down below and I'll send you the link if you can make it. Like I said, it's 6 p.m. tonight, Sydney time. But other than that, thank you for joining me. Please leave a comment if you want to share something in relation to today's video. Give it a like, share and subscribe. Other than that, have a great day and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. This is Zane signing out. Bye for now.